Pax Dei. Last time we checked, it looked like a giant scam. Let's see if that has changed.
Announcement. Save the date. The Wilderness Alpha is coming on April 23rd. The first quarter of 2024 is drawing to a close, and an update on our second alpha test is overdue. We know many of you are eager to dive back into Pax Dei, and we kindly ask for more of your patience. We have decided to take a few extra weeks and improve the game to remove some of the rough edges before opening our next alpha test, codename Wilderness Alpha. And there you
Okay, so the thing about Pax Dei is very simple. The first time I heard about it, I was watching people play it and things like that, and people were just drooling all over it. Oh my god, look at the graphics. Yes, it's basic Unreal 5 graphics. You just boot up the Unreal 5 engine and that's what you get. Literally, the graphics aren't special. They're just basic Unreal 5 graphics. And people were so excited for this, even though there was nothing, honestly, at all. Basic mining, some gathering, some building and whatnot, and that was it. It was all basic crap that already exists in the engine by default, and people were losing their minds over it.
You have it. Unexpectedly, Mainframe have delayed their alpha by a month to ensure the test is fleshed out in content and polish. This upcoming test is...
My assumption is they just want to actually add something new, so people actually think something's happening. Otherwise, people are going to play it and say, wait a minute, nothing changed from the previous one, so what the hell?
is highly anticipated by a lot of my personal community, and we're all eagerly awaiting to see how they've acted upon certain feedback. And the post elaborates on some details related to this, including a tease that the alpha will be focused on the areas beyond the home valley, exciting news that they're planning to invite at least 100,000 players this time around, explaining that the test will be NDA free, much like the first, and some more exciting reveals from our boy Eltari that we will get into in a moment. Because before that, Mainframe did give us a lot of interesting details related to this test in a brief explanation as to why they decided to delay it. Some of the critical features we wanted to test during the second alpha ended up being a bit more challenging to implement than expected, thus requiring additional attention before we could share them with a broader audience. Meanwhile, other team members have been working on new features and content not initially planned for Alpha 2, prompting us to expand the scope. Whilst our initial goal was...
That doesn't make sense in my opinion. Why would you be... Why would half of your team just magically suddenly decide to work on features for the next beta version of the game, or open alpha test version, or whatever you want to call it, for no reason? How does that make sense?
Was to launch this alpha in Q1 2024. This delay will enable us to align the build more closely with our vision, ensuring a better experience for you. Thanks again for your patience. And that's fantastic news to hear, because these open development projects looking for feedback and testing, it's super important that communication remains on point. So, speaking of points, with Eltari's interview, we have some deep dives of important aspects of the game that will be broken down over the coming weeks, starting with...
Yeah, you see that? It actually looks pretty good, doesn't it? It actually looks really, really decent and whatnot. But that's just Unreal 5 in general. They didn't make this. That's just how it looks by default.
Coming weeks, starting with combat changes and implementations for Alpha 2, PvP being introduced into the game, a deep dive of some dungeon content and PvE, and finally, the changes to crafting and building between Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. We will, of course, be covering all of this as it happens, because I am very excited about all of these aspects. So I want you guys to go support Eltari by checking out his channel, because he is dedicated to...
Okay, at this point, with all those changes, with all of this actually show... Yeah, now, it sounds good. All of this sounds good. Do not get me wrong, it actually does sound pretty decent and whatnot. But, I mean, everything sounds good. I'll give you 1,000,000 monies. Sounds good. And then you figure out it's not even Monopoly money, it's Zimbabwe rupees. which is less worth than Monopoly money. So now you understand that you're duped. So things on paper sound really well, but I want to see them in life. But admittedly, this is more hopeful than I expected.
Pax Dei, much like I am dedicated to Ashes of Creation. Surely I'm not regretting my life right now. However, before moving on, we have some teasers right now from his upcoming interviews, as well as some new footage, which has been what's playing in the background.
Yeah, this looks real bad for combat.
Explained that blocking and parrying are now implemented into the game, having some defensive type abilities tied to your gear sets, and being able to progress them to new tier levels. So that sounds very exciting, and the game definitely needed it. Exploration has been massive.
I mean, again, this game has nothing currently. The mob doesn't even move properly. Look at this.
And being able to progress them to...
What is it? They can't even code movement of mobs properly or whatever you're supposed to do here.
New tier levels. So that sounds very...
This is crazy. This is like playing Age of Empires or Age of Mythology or something like that. How units moves, they start to move backwards while moving forwards before they turn or something. This is so bad. And this is why I say that this thing looks more like a giant scam than anything, and people are absolutely just blowing their load all over it for no reason.
Exciting, and the game definitely needed it. Exploration has been massively improved for both group and solo players, giving a bunch of new POIs to search for and loot to be found. However, with this and the combat update, it also means the creatures out in the world have had a difficulty overhaul, so that's going to be fun to test. As we're talking about challenging content, the dungeons have also been revamped, filled with new, rare mobs inside them that drop relics to be sold and traded between players. I'm pretty sure relics are the component that adds spells to your armor, but I digress. PvP was touched on. However, they were beating around the bush a little, so the highlights are that PvP will exist and it's isolated to one particular region and will contain rare resources. But they also mentioned briefly that the skills you can have on your hotbars are swappable for PvP and PvE. Or at least that's what I think they meant. Regardless, we will deep dive this when Altari's interview drops about PvP in the coming weeks. Now, with that said, I could just end this video here, but I gotta make that 8-minute mark to farm the juicy ad revenue. And if you made it past this point in the video, I already bombarded you with an ad. So thank you for helping me pay my rent.
No problem. I have YouTube Prime, so he actually gets money from me.
Fortunately for me, Pax Dei have released a bunch of...
Oh god, look at this. This is probably their unironically best part of the game. And that's just a bootleg shitty version of New World's Gathering.
Interesting teasers.
And that's it? Which is hilarious.
Related to their upcoming test. So
also, these are generic icons. These are free icons. I remember this icon from Thea. Okay, half of this is generic shit icons for free. I don't think they have a single piece of their own art at the moment. And they want open it for 100,000 people? Like, get the fuck out. None of this seems legit.
The remainder of this video isn't just me talking out of my ass. The first of the
best case scenario, the people making this are absolutely blown out of their mind on heroin or something, and they can't figure out what's actually happening, so they're living in Wonderland.
Information is related to who can access. The Pax Dei Wilderness Alpha will start on April 23rd and will last a whole week. Good news! Whilst we won't be able to invite everyone who signed up, the alpha will be much larger than the previous one. We plan to invite at least 100,000 players and will open multiple copies of the world across 2 regions, with the goal of filling them out and checking our infrastructure. We'll invite all participants in one go, so you can play from day 1 if you're selected. In addition to this, if you played the Alpha 1 already, you're guaranteed to have access to the Alpha 2. Last time, they actually ended up letting everyone who used my friend code in, so feel free to use it. I don't get anything from this, it's not like Ashes of Creation's pyramid scheme, it is just a way for Mainframe to associate groups of people who might want to get in and play together. The code to use is on the screen, written exactly how you're supposed to use it. In addition to this, I may get given a bunch of keys, so when we play Pax Dei, make sure you drop by the stream over at twitch.tv/Narcoverse, and we'll do some more marbles giveaways. To conclude,
everything to try and just get those keys. I mean, I respect it, I understand it, good stuff.
Mainframe have also released a bunch of teaser screenshots of some of the features that they've added to their game.
This is not the screenshot teaser, by the way. This is just wood cutting. Again, it all just looks like ripped from the overworld.
To their game. The first of which is some interesting grey box.
Oh, wow, look at this. Actual... What is this, Skyrim assets at this point? Huh. Wine bottles? Those are pretty generic. I'm pretty sure I have seen them somewhere. Teapots? Cider, beer, ale, juice, liquor, mead, syrup.
Box items that look a lot like...
Like what else?
Consumables, or maybe just ambient items that you place, as well as a look at some of these as aforementioned relics. They've also added a bunch of detailed fruits, flora and fauna to the game, implying the introduction of some professions that were missing in Alpha 1, namely
holy flora and fauna,
alchemy and cooking, so that's pretty exciting. But
so the most basic of stuff, okay.
It would also imply that these foods and potions would have some interesting use through this upcoming combat revamp. Speaking of revamp, they also showed us a...
Yeah, that would make sense, that alchemy has uses in combats if you make potions with it. And those potions can do things in that seems on point.
A lot of new armor sets added to the game that I don't recognize. And finally, the most exciting out of these bunch of screenshots is some previews of the work that they've made on new dungeons. And I gotta say, they look gritty, immersive, and very, very well done. Ultimately, even if you're not interested in Pax Dei, what their Alpha 2 will give us is some intimate insight into the development speed possible within Unreal Engine 5.
I'm not interested in that. I don't think we can even actually understand the development speed that's possible in this engine because of it. Because I'm more interested to see if this is a scam or not at the end of the day. Because everything that people are absolutely jizzing about currently, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this doesn't seem that good. This seems way overhyped. Why are you people like this? So, questions.
People are a bit nervous about the state of other Unreal Engine 5 projects after a 3-year hiatus, and rightly so. Therefore, I'd keep my eye on this test regardless of your interest, because it'll either put a few of your worries to rest or confirm some suspicions we've had for a while now. But as usual, I am just one nerd, desperate for a good MMO, and I am pretty excited to get back into Pax Dei. As I mentioned...
I'm not. Well, let's wait and see how it goes, because I don't know. Nothing I saw in Pax Dei seems special in the slightest. It just seems basic Unreal 5. So I'm interested to see how this is gonna go, because everything seems way too grand currently. And, well, let's see if I'm right or wrong. Anyway, that was not good stuff. Anyway, this was Quizzer Said, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.